Good evening, Vancouver. Welcome back to Canucks After Dark, the first edition after a Canucks game, if you can call it that. As always, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are you doing this fine Monday evening, Clay?
Parker, I'm doing 10 goals better than the Canucks, 70 points better than the Denver Broncos. I'm doing fine. I know we're going to dissect this thing, but I'm actually fine. My cast comes off tomorrow after 6 weeks.
Big day.
Yeah, it is a big day. I'm 0% nervous, 100% more excited. No, maybe not, but I'm curious because I don't know how they're going to test how I'm healing, if I'm healing, but I'm excited nonetheless. And I go from a cast to a boot, some weight bearing, some crutches, and it is a big day for sure.
Just in time to get out there and support the Vancouver Canucks, who clearly need it because the season's over. They allowed 10 goals to the Calgary Flames last night. Everybody panic. Of course, we were talking about this beforehand. There was a lot of discourse, a surprising amount of discourse about a preseason hockey game.
Yes,
online last night and into this morning, which I thought was funny. It was very fun to not track any of it and focus on the Seattle Mariners, who are really throwing things in the garbage. Instead,
so wow. Yeah. I know we'll get to it, but we'll do the intro first. But yes, so many different angles that we can take, not just about last night's game, but. Yeah, this feels real. 2 more weeks.
Yeah. Honestly, it was. I was saying this beforehand. I saw that it was 4-0 on my phone, and unlike some people, I did not set my alarm for this preseason game when I saw the roster that was AHLers against the Calgary Flames, essentially.
Yeah.
And so it's 4-0, and I'm like, and I have a minute to myself. I'm like, I'll just throw the game on just for the sake of getting a little bit of excitement into the season. And I put the game on, and then I remembered that John Garrett isn't there anymore. And I was like, oh, that's not as good. But Tomlinson was fine.
He was. He was good.
And then Huberdeau scored a really nice goal.
Yeah.
And then I got scared that Jonathan Huberdeau might be back because he put up 55 points last year, and Calgary might be okay if he is a 110-point player again. That's about the only thing that I gleaned from that game last night.
Yeah, there's so many places to go. I wonder if we should quickly acknowledge a couple of and then I'll talk for a couple minutes. Lucas with a $5 donation. The sky is falling. Cover result, but preseason. So that the very fair representation of a lot of our fan base. Thank you, Lucas. And Peter acknowledging that he's a member for 7 months, and Lucas being a member for 14 months. Thank you, guys. That's awesome. I'll say this, Parker, and then you jump off wherever you want from one of these points. So I think the two extremes that you and I were joking about before we came on was, you're right, the sky is falling. Oh no, we just lost 10-0. We've been preaching about a really good start to the season. This must mean we really stink, and this is gonna be a horrible year, and Talkett's gonna be fired within 2 weeks.
Right.
That's the rational
exaggeration approach.
Yeah. Yes. And of course, I'm exaggerating here for the point. The other exaggeration was, it's just a preseason game. Calgary had their full lineup, which they didn't. They had about half their lineup, but they're still a lot better than us. We had like 3 guys that might make the team. So, but it was almost underreacting or over-rationalizing it, saying, let's not worry at all, because this is I'm not worried, but you do want to see a bit more pushback, and you'd rather win 10-0 than lose 10-0. How's that?
Yeah, of course. And I think if the Canucks had won 10-0 yesterday, people would be pretty fired up. And the thing, I think Rick Tocchet said it pretty well, where he said, look, it's not the result that matters, right? But it's the fact that they've been preaching systems work in training camp, and there was seemingly none of that to be found. Again, that shouldn't matter if you're one of the top line guys or one of the AHL guys, frankly, right? If the system is going to work, the system should work farther down the line. But I mean, the real thing is, Seelov's wasn't good, right? I think really what we should focus on is individual performances, right?
Exactly.
And if we think about the people who were actually playing last night, who do we care about? Artur Seelov's is a big one. However, we talked about him at length last week and how he might be in competition for the backup spot. Now that is seemingly not on the table, and we'll get to Casey DeSmith later, less concerning, right? Because he's going to be playing AHL games this year. Right. So I'm not that concerned about that. Akito Hirose on the stat sheet on for 0 goals against. He was actually on for 1 goal against.
I saw that.
But hey, being out for 1 goal against, being a -1 in a 10-0 loss, that's pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. And just before, let's move from goaltender out, but just one thought about Silovs, or Shilovs, as they're both calling him now on TV and the radio. Arturs Shilovs, I guess is the proper way to say it. I was a little bit surprised. Like, obviously, he didn't have the strongest team in front of him, and you're not going to blame him for all 7, but there are a couple. I'm not sure you got to see the highlights. There was Kadri did a really nice move that I think Shilovs could have saved. He also let out a fat rebound on one of the goals. So again, not his fault completely, but I was hoping for a bit more, but I love your point. In the big scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. No one's going to remember this in 2 weeks because he'll be playing in splitting games in Abbotsford with Martin, as opposed to when we're wondering when he's going to take the net behind Demko.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, right? The game doesn't matter as a whole, right?
Yeah.
And I think the lineup we saw wasn't surprising, right? The Canucks have 6 preseason games, basically only 2 real road ones, right?
Yeah.
There's the 2 in Alberta that you actually have to fly to, right? The remainder is 2 in Vancouver, 1 in Abbotsford, 1 in Seattle. So they only have 1 more real road preseason game, and it makes a bunch of sense that if you're going to play your main guys, you're going to get Demko in, you're going to get DeSmith in, you're going to get, Pettersson and Besser and Miller and all those guys in. You probably don't want to give them a bunch of travel because the Canucks are the most traveled team in hockey, right?
Right.
Why wouldn't you use this opportunity to give those guys, prolong their travel a little bit? So I imagine that, those main guys, I'm hoping we'll see that for those 4 games or maybe 3 of the 4 that we're seeing pretty much NHL roster because we talk about this at length. Slow start is unacceptable, right? We can't have an 0-5-2. The Canucks need to come out strong, and they're going to need to play the preseason, kind of like Calgary did last night, right? They had some of their big guns out there, and it almost cost them because Huberdeau went down at one point, but he did come back and score again, so he's fine.
He's fine. No, good point. And by the way, Spartan, thank you for the $2 donation. We appreciate you. Structure and habits. Yes, that's what we're trying to build on Canucks After Dark is good structure and good habits. You make a good point, though, about when are we going to see a true strong lineup? And you think that with the back-to-back on the road, Wednesday and Thursday of this week, and then you're right, the 3 home games, Vancouver, Abbotsford, Vancouver, you probably let the young guys or the guys on the bubble battle out for maybe 1 or 2 games max. And then you're right, the 3 home games, I think you start to see more of our real lineup. And if there's any battles to be had, they can duke it out there. But ultimately, you're gonna save your Millers and Pettersson and Hugheses, I think, for the last 3 games or so.
Yeah. So I think we're both on the same page that Wednesday's game against Edmonton's going to be playing some of their good players.
Yeah.
And the Canucks probably won't because again, why are you gonna ship those guys out there for one night if you don't need to?
Yeah. And then back to back to Seattle right after that, correct?
Yes, Seattle's the following night. So you would think that it's essentially they're just going to have 2 rosters and probably minimal players playing on the Wednesday will be playing on that Thursday night in Seattle.
Right. And then Saturday, something Friday. Okay, that makes sense.
Saturday, Wednesday, Friday. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
I mean, hey, we just spent like 7 minutes talking about a Vancouver Canucks hockey game. We're back.
That's exciting.
And a loss nonetheless. We're in mid-season form.
Imagine if we got to talk about goals, we could talk for 9 minutes.
Yeah, we could talk about Pius Suter's 4 shots on goal.
He did? Wow. Okay, actually, before, but yeah. So not to make light or to gloss over, but so I don't know if you saw Parker the highlights, you watched, or you just heard of the 6 defensemen, and you could argue that none of these 6 defensemen are going to be on the opening night lineup because we know the big 5 that we always talk about, and then Wolanin nor Brisebois also went on this trip. So you could argue that one of those 2 guys are going to play with Myers on the 3rd pairing. So you had Hirose, McCord, Juleson, Irwin, Wu, and Rathbone, and only Hirose, as you mentioned, -1 or 0, doesn't matter. He was the only one that did not play poorly.
Yeah. So that's not, that's a bit of an indictment.
Yeah.
So how much of the game did you watch? Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I did. I'm a glutton for punishment, man.
It's going to be a long season. What did you think then? Because again, I only watched about the second period.
Sure.
What were your thoughts on guys like, Matt Irwin, for example, where where he's sort of on the bubble?
Great question. So Irwin's got the most experience of all those guys, of course. And I actually thought, Parker, there's one play where he left his side and actually joined Rathbone in the far corner and then didn't get back. And it was actually his area where the goal got scored. So aside from that one glaring play, I thought, I don't know if this is the best way of putting it, aside from Hronek, he was the least offensive. And I don't mean offensive, like scoring. He was the least offensive of the other guys. He didn't have a bad, giveaway like Jolson. He didn't get walked multiple times like Wu. So, or Rathbone getting knocked off the play. So I thought Irwin was the second best defenseman. And you could tell that he's an NHL player. He has some poise and he knows what he's doing. I know a lot of people thought he had a rough game, or maybe they're expecting more than him. You got to look at the whole lineup. But I thought he was okay, and I could certainly see him. I'm not sure if he's number 6, Parker, but I think I could see him as being number 7 or number 8, like a healthy scratch starting with the big team. Because you remember, a lot of these guys need waivers to clear, with a guy like Hronek doesn't, and that's a big factor actually.
Yeah, it makes it a lot. And Hronek is a guy you want playing, right? You want him either playing in the NHL or playing in the AHL. I think we missed it. Coach Rob with 5 memberships gifted. Thank you very much, Rob. Again, it doesn't show up on our list here.
Thank you, Rob.
To Erwin, David, AMD, and Matthew, and I guess one anonymous person who who didn't share it.
Thank you, Coach Rob.
And then welcome Ryan, who joined as a member, and then also gifted 5 memberships. So thank you, Ryan. Those went to Quattrob, Clifford, Core Rob, Clint Chow, and Safe Studios. So thank you guys very much. Mid-season gifting form already.
Yes, they are in mid-season gifting form. We obviously are not in mid-season observation form. Thank you. Thanks to everyone for your generosity. Yeah, we're excited for a big year for sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, that's the Canucks game that happened.
Yeah. Very quickly.
What
forwards.
else did you notice?
Yeah. So forwards. I'll and Parker, you can tell me if this lines up with what you heard. Studnicka, Ratu, and Höglander were probably the best 3 forwards. Höglander's funny. He got nailed by this defenseman named Gilbert, and then Irwin then dropped the gloves and fought Gilbert, or Gilbert won, didn't matter. And then later in the game, it was Höglander was going back against Gilbert, and it was actually one of those where it was loose puck, and it wasn't dirty, it wasn't from behind, but they just kind of collided. But I don't think Gilbert anticipated Höglander to be as sturdy as he is, and he sent him flying in the boards, and he didn't come back. He actually didn't come back. Yeah.
Jeez, yeah. Höglander is he's a little spicy out there, and he made that very clear in Abbotsford. He's a little chippy. He's a little bit of a pest out there, which is fun. It got him in some trouble. He got quite a few penalties in those Abbotsford games I watched, but he is fun. He is fun to keep track of. Hearing that, the names you list there, right? Höglander, Studnicka, and Ratu.
Yep.
They're names that you want to hear, especially Höglander and Ratu. Studnicka, I'm not really seeing the place for him in the roster. He's
they're saying it a good camp. Yeah, they're saying it a good camp though. But is that enough?
I'm just basing from sort of his last
totally.
And sort of the glut of adding Suter and Bluger and where's he going to fit in.
Fair.
But of course you want guys to come stand out and maybe have a shot to earn a spot and put some pressure on. So that's good. What about Podkolzin? Did he stand out?
Yeah. So for the wrong reason. So just before I get to Podkolzin, Parker, I guess the two guys among the 12 forwards that you could see actually being on the team were Suter and Joshua. And they were just okay, not very noticeable. I'll say that. Podkolzin, unfortunately, was noticeable for the wrong reasons. And he didn't do anything bad, but he didn't do anything of note at all. I don't know if he has stat line for him. I think it's a bunch of zeros, right? Like he didn't do. Correct. Yes. And I think what's frustrating is he's been playing with Miller and Besser on the de facto second line as Höglander's played with Petey and Kuzmenko. So Höglander and Podkolzin are getting every opportunity to make an impact at camp during the games. And I granted it's only one game, but he was very, very unnoticeable, including 8 seconds in. Tanner rocked him into the bench or at the bench. Kind of a, hey, I remember you type moment. So, yeah, a lot of people, I'm not calling him a bust. I really want him to do well. I really do. But nothing last night. Nothing to show for.
Yeah, and now's the time. We're getting to that point where, if you're going to make a step and actually be a true NHL player, it's around now. You got to hope that he can step it up. And It's not that. Will it impact the team a lot if he's not up there? Probably not, right? The Canucks have a lot of wingers, and if he's fitting in as a third line winger, there's other players that can fill that role. But you're just thinking, it would be you really need a breakout from a couple guys, right? That's this team. We've talked about how this team they're a playoff team, and even Jim Rutherford said it. If everything goes right, they're a playoff team, right? Or was it Alvin that said that? One of them said that.
It was Rutherford.
Yeah. So if everything goes right, they're a playoff team. Well, one of the things you need to go right is you need people to be. You can look at the roster as we currently have it set up. You need someone to take a step, right? Because if the current roster as it is like 50-50, someone or a couple people taking a big step, if it's a Podkolzin and beating out someone else, or a Höglander beating out someone else and being better than they would have been, then that's a step that helps everything going right. So the fewer options of that happen make it a bit tougher.
Who do you think has the better career when we're still doing Canucks After Dark and I'm 59 years old and you're 35? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. And then we're looking back and we're saying, who had the better career, Niels Höglander or Vasily Podkolzin? If you had to guess,
I think it's gonna be Höglander. He's just shown more at every level, essentially, especially the NHL level.
Yep, and they'll forever be linked because they were our top two picks in the Vancouver draft 2019.
And I don't have anything wrong. Like, I have no qualms with that Podkolzin pick. Looking back at it, again, he was the de facto number 2, number 3.
Yeah,
a year before that draft. So hindsight can always be 2020. But he's it just hasn't worked out.
2020. I'll take 20 goals and 20. I'll take 10 goals and 20 assists from Podkolzin.
That would be nice.
Oh, okay. We got time. Well, it's just one game, right? That's our theme. Just one game.
And that's the thing, guys. We have to fill an hour with one hockey game of info. All right, and all of training camp, to be fair, and a trade. Of course, Casey DeSmith. Yeah. Also, Carol coming out with 5 memberships. Also,
wow!
Thank you very much, Carol. Those go to Jonathan Aoun. I don't want to pronounce that wrong. Sorry if I did. Zhao, Smooth 18, and Scott. Just Scott.
Wow. We're going to have more members than people in here. That's awesome.
Maybe. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who's come through there. Much appreciated. Anything else from the game last night that stood out to you? We saw a little bit of Zach Sawchenko. I don't think that's he allowed, what was it? 3 goals on 8 shots. Yeah. Better save percentage than Seelov's, who allowed 7 on 18. Only 26 shots against and 10 goals. That is not ideal.
Yeah, and I saw a couple of people upset. Why did Calgary dress such a strong lineup? Well, because you got to sell tickets, and you have to. For the exact same reason we're saying Vancouver did not send a good lineup. It was on the road. This was a game at home. So yeah, just picture when the Canucks open up their, when they play this Saturday hosting Edmonton, you're going to see a pretty good roster, at least.
And probably a pretty weak Edmonton roster.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, if you're only going to play McDavid in 2 preseason games, let's say, why would you ship him elsewhere, right? Why would you make him play on the road when you can play at home and you can make a little bit extra revenue?
Yeah, exactly. So, Calgary, Markstrom versus Shelov's already, you can tell that Calgary had a much better roster. So I'm not basing it on just last night's game, Parker, because even though they didn't play, just like we didn't play any of our stars, Uyghur didn't play, Zadorov didn't play, Backlund didn't play. So some of their good players didn't play. I must admit, I keep overlooking Calgary. We keep talking about how disappointing Vancouver's season was last year. Calgary, wasn't that weird stat? They lost 15 one goal games or something.
Oh, did they? That's not
so
good.
Yeah. They only missed the playoffs by 2 points. So they only had to win one. When we're talking about 2 or 3 of those, and they're in their playoffs. So we talk about Vegas, Edmonton, LA for sure, and then we're hoped to be in this next mix of teams of Seattle. And I keep hearing about Calgary because I don't like them, but I don't know. Maybe it's 6 teams battling for 4 or if not 5 spots.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, especially when you get like Matt Coronado coming out and lighting it up. No, that's not ideal either. So, yeah, Calgary again. Don't want to base too much of a 10-0 game, obviously. But yeah, Calgary's year last year was really tanked by Huberdeau, and they have a goalie in Jacob Markstrom who can, he can rally a team. He can be good for a while.
Yeah.
So Calgary's not done. They definitely are still in the mix.
Right. Do you like Calgary, by the way? Their team, their players?
No,
But do you hate them?
I dislike them.
Yeah, they're my least favorite team, actually. Yeah.
I think they are. Yeah, they might be.
Might be yours,
They
too?
might be. There's after Chicago.
Bedard won't swing it for you a little bit, at least?
I'll like him.
Yeah.
Until he does something to make me not like him, which I'm sure will happen at some point.
Yeah, that's fair. Wow. All right. Can't be worse, right?
All of training camp happened since
Yep.
we last have chatted.
That's true.
The big notes were, of course, Höglander getting that Pedersen Kuzmenko treatment on that
Yep.
top unit during all of camp. Do you think that's them giving him a legitimate shot to try to make a top six role, or do you think that's strictly Ilya Mikheyev placeholder?
Bit of column A, bit of column B. I think if Mikheyev is not ready to start the season, and it doesn't help that he missed training camp with that personal issue. So, maybe because who else are you going to put there? I think Besser is tied to Miller's hip. I think they like Garland with Suter, and if they like Beauvillier with, I guess Bluger, because you know how we keep talking like pairs. Then, if that pair is PD Kuzmenko, then who do you put there? Höglander, maybe.
Yeah, and you never know if they're trying to keep lines together, right? And
Yeah.
they're thinking, well, maybe Mikheyev's going to miss the first couple games of the year, so we're going to put Höglander there, and that way we don't have to shift anyone else around. Again, that
Good point.
scares me because I want you to ice your best lineup every game. Whether that's Höglander or not is irrelevant. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out.
Do you remember last year there were a couple games, Parker, where PD actually played between Höglander and Podkolzin? They just put that line together. Yeah, it was interesting.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I do remember that because I was hopeful. You had your 2017 first rounder plus your 2019 first and 2019 second, but much like the rest of the team, well, PD was fine last year, but the rest of the team didn't do that much. So, yeah, but I do think it's a Höglander spot until Mikheyev gets back. I really do.
Yeah. What about Arshdeep Baines?
Yeah,
He got some time with Garland and Suter in camp.
Yeah. He's a name that, we've always rattled off all the guys battling for those 2 or 3 winger spots, even after Tanner Pearson got traded. But
he's never been one that I've actually strongly considered to be
me too. Yeah.
Competing. Yeah.
That's what I mean is he could really surprise some people and imagine if Podkolzin continues to struggle or whatever, you could see Baines be a 12th, 13th, 14th forward for sure.
Yeah, and that's what's nice about having all these guys who are sort of in between, right? If a couple of them stand out in camp, right, that's a big win, right? It just takes a couple of those, sort of glut of 8 guys to excel, and then now you have an extra piece that's useful. I didn't expect it to be Baines, but it's sort of like a Neil Zaman situation last year, right? You get an extra guy who can come in, maybe he'll play 20 games or something like that, and can be a good piece for you.
And of the AHL guys, I would say that Baines has he didn't play last night, but McDonough, Klimovich, and Sasson, they didn't do that much. So I think Baines is kind of in that weird spot where he's not as good as obviously the main guys, but I think he's separated himself a little bit. And by being placed with 2 bona fide NHLers, maybe he gets a look on one of these next 2 games. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be a good homegrown story for sure.
Yeah.
If he can break into the league.
Yep. Yeah. And then there's I guess Bluger and Suter. So Suter played last night, was quite unnoticeable like many guys. So I'm interested to see what Bluger does.
4 shots.
Yeah, I know. I don't remember any of them.
That's okay. You should be deleting this game from your memory.
Well, I'm deleting it from my PVR, that's for sure. But yes. And then, I guess we should talk about the defense because Rick Tocchet went on the first day and said he doesn't like playing a left shot guy on the right side. Although, so then he had Hughes with Juleson day 1. Then he had Hughes with Susie on day 2. And apparently they really struggled in the scrimmage together.
Yeah, which is not ideal. You don't want to be hearing that. Hughes shouldn't be struggling with anybody. He played with Luke Schenn all last year.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like the right versus left. When you're playing at that high of a level, I don't know how much of a difference it makes for some of these guys. I know for myself, I used to always say whenever I'd like play for a new team, be like, "Oh, I can play whichever side on D."
Yeah.
And then I would always say that, and I always thought that. And then I started playing my strong side, and it's so much easier, surprisingly. Maybe there's some method to why coaches prefer that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
it causes some problems though.
Exactly. And all this time, Parker, for the last month, we've been talking about presuming one of Cole or Susie would flip over to the right. And therefore, we're looking at this left shot third spot, right? Of Wolandon, Brisbane, Hirose, Rathbone, Irwin. But imagine if it's actually Hughes, Cole, Susie on the left, and then it's Hronek, Myers. Good thing we're not trading him, I guess, now. And then who's your third guy? Is it Jolson? Is it Wu? Is it McWard?
Right.
Well,
Yeah, it gets a little dicey.
yeah. What would you do? I guess we got to see Cole and Susie play.
Yeah, you got to see him play. I mean, for me, I want my best 6 players out there,
Yeah.
right? Like again, I think, I don't know. Do I think someone is better than Cole McWard? Probably, even on the wrong side.
Yeah.
It's tricky, but I think you gotta play the better player most of the time.
I still want to see Hughes with Cole because apparently Cole had a really, really good training camp, but he never played on Hughes' side because Cole was playing on the left.
Yeah, it feels like something we should see experimented. But if they didn't try it in camp, that makes it a little maybe less likely.
But a Cole, what they did do is Cole Hronek, and that sounds like a really good pairing actually if Cole's playing well. Yeah. Oh, we'll see. I guess
We sure will. Yeah, I'm kind of sad that because I was looking, I was like, oh, there's a game Wednesday. That's one I can pay attention to. But again, they're on the road, so it's probably not going to be that interesting.
Yeah.
But the Saturday game, that'll be one
Big.
to maybe pay attention to. Big, yes.
Big game.
Very important. Make or break for the season.
You should go to Abbotsford one. Would you?
I could. Thing about those, they usually are expensive. I remember
Really?
the Abbotsford one last year was really expensive because it was it's the only game that'll be in Abbotsford that year.
Yeah.
So it was quite a bit pricier.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I haven't looked at this one though.
Yeah, they don't even include it in our packages for season tickets. So yeah, I wouldn't know.
Do you go to the preseason ones when they're in your season ticket package?
So they are part of it. We technically pay for them, but I've learned, Parker, just not to expect to make any, like, not even to make, to even recoup. We just give them away. Or in fact, I gave away one pair on my live stream last night just because, it's just one of those things. And you almost don't feel just in charging someone full for a preseason game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit much.
Yeah.
Which game is the one in Abbotsford?
The middle one of this the fifth game of, I think it's Seattle. Yeah, it's the Seattle game.
They don't even have it on, like, if I go to Canucks.com single game tickets, it's not even there.
What?
I don't even know where you'd buy these tickets.
Okay, while you're looking that up,
website either.
Oh, weird. I'll acknowledge Lucas's donation. Thank you, Lucas, for the $5 dono. The franchise known as the Wenatchee Wild had yet another situation on their hands. This time their coach, yes, Kevin Constantine, I think, in the news again for the wrong reasons. I don't know everything about it, but probably not good if he's suspended before or under investigation before the season even starts.
Yeah, secondhand, I'm looking. These tickets are $52 for the cheapest ones at Abbotsford.
What?
Yeah, that's.
Unless Abbotsford season ticket holders get first dibs. That would
maybe
make
they
sense.
get all of them. Yeah, maybe there's just no single games for sale. Interesting.
That would make sense.
That might make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Lucas, for that donation.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. What do you want to talk about next?
Should we talk about the trade?
Yeah, let's do it.
It was 6 days ago at this point. Of course, the timely trade from Alvin, who's been making so many like Friday moves that, and sometimes Sunday moves, which would be great for us. To do it on a Tuesday is just rude. Tanner Pearson is gone. We talked about how the Canucks had to make some sort of move on a winger side, and I said Beauvillier is my choice.
Me too.
I think you said the same thing. And they went with Tanner Pearson. And honestly, I didn't hate the idea of trading Tanner Pearson. I just didn't think they'd do it.
Yeah.
Especially coming off of an injury. Like it feels kind of like a weird trade to make.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if he'll even be able to play right away, although he says he's ready.
Sure.
So the trade is Tanner Pearson, and it was a 2025 third round pick.
Correct.
And in return, the Canucks get backup goaltender goaltender, not necessarily backup, but he will be the backup here. Casey DeSmith, who is, 32 years old?
He is. Yep.
He is 32 years old, just turned 32. He's got 134 NHL games, the career save percentage of a .912, which is better than Spencer Martin and Artur Silovs.
Yes, and I remember I just looked it up to make sure. I remember I texted you on Tuesday saying, I said, good job on your Pearson video. It's funny. In both of our videos today, we both referenced Canucks After Dark extensively because it's true. They break the trade. We basically didn't even turn off our computers yet. And then it was all stuff that kind of we were talking about just 12 hours prior. And there was this whole glut at Ford. What are they going to do? They need some money, And then we were debating who's going to be the backup goaltender. Gosh, that's going to be such an intriguing battle. It was just so funny.
Yeah, so Patrick Alvin watched our show on Monday and he said, how can I make half of this irrelevant immediately? That's exactly what he did. He made half of our last week's show irrelevant.
Yeah.
It still did very well. Thank you guys for watching.
Yes.
And we each made a video on our own channels that I don't know how yours did. Mine did well.
Yeah, good.
And it was a fun one to make.
And we agreed that it was a good trade for three reasons: salary cap, backup goaltender, relieve the glut of forward. And we could talk about each of those 3 points, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, if you start with first the subtraction, right, which is Tanner Pearson, who is noticeably slower than he can't really keep up as well as he used to be able to, and now he's coming off this hand injury that might impact the strengths of his game, which is winning the occasional battle, making a good pass, and being a decent line mate essentially. So who knows what player he's going to be able to be this year. I'm sure he'll be fine, but he's there's some risk attached to him. So if they had to get rid of one winger, and we said it was going to be Beauvillier or Garland or Besser or Pearson, and we knew it wouldn't be Besser. And I've been advocating for it to not be Garland, so I'm sure Alvin watched that video too.
He watches all our stuff, man.
Yeah, we're from the outside, we are manipulating this team, I'm sure. I honestly, Tanner Pearson being the one that has to go, just to start with that point, works for me.
Yeah. I agree with that. And it's funny, and it's not, and I know this will be our next point. It's not like his salary cap is insignificant. Like 3.2, that's a lot of money. We'll talk about the mechanics of how it actually helps because, we'll talk about that in a second. But for Pearson himself, I know you and I both said he's kind of like Rick Tocchet's kind of player. He's north-south, dependable, low maintenance, all those things. But you're right. He was really slowing down last year before he got injured. So, you never want to wish ill will, especially on a guy who's left your organization after playing loyally here for a few years and going through some drama. But I'm not sure how much he has left in the tank. I really don't.
Before this trade was made, if I had said the Canucks are trading Tanner Pearson, do you think he has positive value or negative value coming out of that trade? Like, would the Canucks have to add to move that contract?
Great point. So without being biased, let's pretend I don't know what the return was. If you told me that we were going to get rid of Tanner Pearson, I would say that you'd have to add something to make that trade happen. And not to jump to conclusion, but I wouldn't have guessed you'd get a return as good as we did, quite frankly.
Right. Yeah. I looked at that. I saw when I thought about trading Tanner Pearson, I was thinking, you might be able to move him for nothing. Mm-hmm. You might be able to get future considerations for him, but you look at the winger market where it's been at this year. Yeah. There's options out there that that you could get for cheaper than Tanner Pearson, most likely. Yep. Or at least there were up until the middle of August. The winger market has been dead. So the fact that, they were able to only have to package a third with Tanner Pearson to get rid of him, and a 2025 third at that, right? We're talking about a player who might play games, if he ever does, in 2029. Yeah. Right? So real ways down the line, right?
Right.
And in return, they get a actual dependable backup goalie, right? Yep. A player who like I said, he played 38 games for the Penguins last year, had his worst year ever with a 905 save percentage. Much better than that's about what league average was last year, by the way.
Right.
That's totally good. And his previous year, 26 games, a 914. Year before that, 912. Year before that, 916. And then his first year, 921. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't been a starter at any point. I mean, he's been with Pittsburgh's organization forever, and they've been pretty blessed with goaltending.
Yeah.
So
those are good numbers. Those are good numbers. And by the way, if anyone's wondering, because I know a few people were, well, if he's played 5 years for Pittsburgh, he went there undrafted, correct, Parker? He's undrafted?
That is correct.
So if people are wondering, well, how the heck did he get to Montreal? He got to Montreal in that big three-way deal: San Jose, Pittsburgh, Montreal, Erik Karlsson, Jeff Petrie, others. But yes, that's how he was in Montreal. And apparently, I only read one article, so it might not be completely true, but apparently he was not happy to get traded to Montreal. But that was because of a family situation. I think him and his wife or girlfriend or partner were expecting, and it was just a tumultuous time to move. But he seems pretty happy about coming out here.
Yeah. And the thing is, so you go back to the trade itself, right? So the Canucks, and you sort of mentioned off the top, it solves really two of their it solves all three problems that they had, right?
Yeah.
Too many wingers, no cap space, and a iffy backup goalie. They get a backup goalie who, I mean, look, they've had some bad luck with backup goalies lately, right? You can think of, Hronek as one example, and he wasn't the guy they expected him to be. Not his fault, just age.
Sure.
And Casey DeSmith, he's 32, right? He's not young in NHL terms, but for a goalie, it's not super old. Yeah. And he only has 134 games of NHL, wear and tear, right? Throw in another 100 or so in the AHL, right? He's only played about 240 pro hockey games. He doesn't have a lot of wear and tear under his belt. Like that's like 4 Martin Brodeur seasons. Like it's really not that much playing time. So you got to hope that, he'll hold up pretty well. And yeah, it really, this trade, I mean, the cost of a 2025 third is absolutely negligible to me. I saw lots of people saying like, oh, you're giving up quality draft capital. Not really. Let's be real. You're throwing away a lottery ticket of a guy with a 15% chance of making it.
Yeah, I know you went hard on that point on your video, which is a perspective I appreciated because, you're right, Parker. A lot of people added to their narrative, their anti-Benning, anti-Rutherford, basically trade picks narrative. And I get that argument, but yeah, we're not talking about a first or second rounder, which obviously intuitively makes a big difference.
Yeah. We're talking about a pick that, again, this is a team that is supposed to be a playoff team, especially after next season when this pick will be, right? We're talking about 80th overall here, right? 80 to 90th overall. There are some gems there. Don't get me wrong. And if you have good scouts, you can get some value there. Yeah. But again, as for just pure value wise, that's not a super hard pick to recoup, right? Yeah. If the Canucks are out of the playoffs, you can trade Tyler Myers at the deadline and get that, right? You'll be okay.
Let's talk about the salary cap. So the salary and what's a very important point to note. So yes, Pearson made 3.25, and then of course DeSmith makes 1.6, but then as 1.8. So there's a difference of 1.45. So you say, okay, that's what you save in cap. But don't forget, you also have to add either Marchand or Seelov's cap to that technically because he's replacing them. So really, you could argue that this move is kind of it makes $2 million of room as opposed to 1.45. I know that's a weird way of looking at it, but it's true because he's taking up one of those roster spots as well.
Yeah, the Canucks cap space is now projected to be negative $2 million, basically on the money, 1.997 million. Yep. However, with Tucker Poolman's $2.5 million on LTIR, the Vancouver Canucks have effectively $500,000 in cap space with, I believe, 22 players on the roster. And of course, it depends. This is based on cap friendly, who they are considering will be on the roster opening night. But you replace, let's say you put Podkolzin up and put someone else down that makes slightly more. There's obviously ways to make more room or less room. Obviously on LTIR, you want to be as close to the ceiling as possible to accumulate that LTIR space. But
actually, Parker, I just did a quick count, yes, they do list 22, but they don't include Mikheyev, whose salary is included in there. So that they're actually at 23, but they have him listed as IR right now. That's why.
Okay, interesting.
So that's good. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Okay, so the Canucks are they're cap compliant. They did it.
Not a lot of wiggle room, but
yeah, I mean that was my thumbnail of my video. Just the salary problems are solved. It's that easy. So we'll take it.
And I think we made the point too, like when you're talking about the 6 defensemen or the 11 and 12 forwards, those guys are all making between $785,000 and $950,000. So yeah, 100 or 200 grand either way is not gonna put us over the cap. So you're right, our salary cap problems are solved. We just have no wiggle room to do anything, but at least we can start the season with a full roster.
Yeah. Jarhead brings up, I don't know why Parker's always disregarding picks. And if you look at me historically, you know that is absolutely false. Because I have always been against trading picks. But would you look at it different if they gave up Hunter Brustovich or Danila Klimovich instead? Both are third-round picks. Here's the thing. Danila Klimovich, for one, is a lot closer to playing than a 2025 third-round pick. When was Klimovich drafted? 2020?
20, yes, or 2020.
So
one of the two.
5 years of difference there. Right. We're talking about, again, a 2025 third-round pick is going to be probably a winger you can pick up for $900K at some point, right? Like, do I think Danila Klimovich is going to be a full-time NHLer? I don't know. I kind of doubt it, right? I mean, we've been hyped up about him and things like that, but and I honestly, to be fair, I know basically nothing about Hunter. I'm not going to go back to the last name. But I mean, like, to be fair, the thing is, I think Klimovich's current value is higher than a third round pick. But the thing is, you named 2 third round picks here, right? You didn't list, let's see, what are some other good names? I mean, Tyler Madden, that would be a bad example. But like Guillaume Brisebois, if they had traded Brisebois, I'd be fine with that, right? Nikita Trampkin, Cole Castles, David Hronek. These are all their third round picks from the past, right?
Who's David Hronek?
I don't know. They picked him 71st overall in 2011, right? Like the thing is, I don't have more examples because the Canucks usually don't have third round picks. Yeah. But like Will Lockwood, for example, right? Like these are guys who are essentially in the mix of sort of the glut. And at that point, it's draft capital and it does have value. However, it also has value to be below the salary cap and to have a backup goalie when you are, essentially you don't have one and you're a 50-50 chance of making the playoffs. Having a backup, having Casey DeSmith playing 27 games, let's say, instead of Artur Silovs or Spencer Martin, probably Spencer Martin playing 27 games, that's probably like 6 to 8 points in the standings. That's a huge deal and way more of an impact than a third round pick in 2025 will ever have for this team.
Right. So and I know Jarhead from outside of a very smart guy, understands the stuff. So I do, and I think Parker does. We do have time for that argument. I can't speak for Parker, but I think he too. We have time for that argument for sure. You never know what a third round pick is going to be, but I think we're talking about the timing of this pick, where he won't be an impact player, if at all, until 28, 29, and by then the Canucks are going through another cycle of whatever. And the DeSmith, you got to give up a little bit of quality or a little bit of potential to get someone like DeSmith, who Rick Tockett's thrilled now. Ian Clark's thrilled. The players are thrilled because they have a bona fide backup now, a guy where they're not freaking out if Demko goes down, and that's huge. You're right. It's at least 6 to 8 points, I think, in the standings, and that's what the Canucks need. They need about 15 more to make the playoffs,
unless he's terrible. Then hindsight will take all this back. Also, BL Tubes is right. Klimovich was a high second, not a third, which.
And to finish, in all fairness, Jarhead says that's fair. I just find that when you attach names to it, it changes the sentiment. Yeah, that's good. That's true. Sure. And you can always pull names to strengthen your argument either way. But that's totally fair. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna pick a random draft. Let's go back to 2019. I'm gonna pull up 2019 third rounders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 have ever played NHL games.
8 out of 32.
8 out of the 30. Yeah, that was 31 at that point.
Okay.
There was no Seattle yet. The most only one guy's played more than 40 games.
Who?
And that is Alexei Protas in Washington.
Oh yeah, that guy.
That guy. Yeah. But like the thing is, I mean, let's go farther back because maybe, still too soon. 2015, Keegan Colasar. The only name on this list is Anthony Cirelli, basically.
Right.
Yeah. And so, and Aiden Hill and Sam Montembeault, right?
Okay.
But yeah, third rounders, like, again, it's a lottery ticket, 15% of having a real NHL player.
Right. You know what? The quick aside, my memory is Montembeault. I think he was in net, or at least for some of the game when the Canucks made that crazy comeback against Montreal. Remember they were losing like 5-0, and then they came up to go up 6-5, and then Montreal went up 7. Oh, it was. Well, I might have the numbers wrong, but that was a nutso game. And Montembeault was in net, but that doesn't mean he's bad.
Yeah, Montembeault's not very good, to be fair. He's not as good as Casey DeSmith.
Right. So there we go. That's a great summation of the trade. We like it both individually and collectively because it solves the glut at winger. It saves you over $2 million in cap space when you consider you have to send a goalie down, and you have a bona fide backup goaltender, which I think of immediate interest is the most important part for this team that so desperately wants to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and you won't feel that impact much in October. I think most of the back-to-backs come late October into November. But those will be big to have, a guy like a real decent goalie to fill that role. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch. Demko to Smith. I mean, that's two good goalies.
Yep, it makes it. I think it shoots them to, the top of the Pacific Division like the tandems. You can argue if Markstrom's still better than Demko or whatever, and that's fair. But as a tandem, that you can't get much better than that in our division, which I love.
Yeah,
which I love. Yeah,
yeah. I think Calgary might have a better tandem, but
who's their backup?
They have Vladar still, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And although he only put up an 895 last year, he actually struggled. I thought he was better than he seems to be. Although he is still young, he's only 26.
Okay. Yep. Very good.
All right. We have about 15 minutes left, folks. So now's a good time for some questions as we are in the middle of now. I guess we're in hockey season. So we've got, for preview's sake, we've got 5 more preseason games. Next Monday, the 2nd, is our essentially going to be our. Is that going to be our predictions show?
No, we said we could actually push it all the way to things. Yeah, the 9th.
Okay. Yeah. And then what are we doing next week? Next week's just preseason wrap up. We'll know some lines. We should see some real players play on Saturday. So that will be good.
Yeah, next Monday, we'll be talking about 3, if not 4 games.
3. Yes.
3.
And
at least a home game.
Them, yes, one home game. And then the one against the Kraken, I imagine some starters will get game time as well, which would be lovely.
Yeah. Good. And then we go laugh about how we pummeled Edmonton 10-0.
Yeah,
maybe not.
I'll take the under on that. If
last thing, and then we'll get to everyone's questions. So if we say that the backup goaltender is now not a storyline, right?
A battle. Yep.
Yeah, a battle. I'll ask you one more time because 6th defenseman or 11th, 12th forward.
It's the defenseman. It's especially with this left-right wrinkle that the Canucks now have to deal with, where they're having some issues, and they had some issues defensively last night. Again, not really related to the players that'll be on the team, but it'll be really interesting to see who cracks the roster. I have a feeling we're going to see like Matt Irwin opening night or something like that.
I do too, actually,
because it seems like such an easy move.
Yeah, and then I think Wolanin will be the 7th because Hronek you can send to Abbey without the risk of losing him to waivers, and just let him marinate, let him cook there, and then once he's ready and once the injury calls and you think he's going to come, then I'm with you. As much as I love him, I don't think he makes the team. Yeah.
And I don't like that again, it's not what I'm hoping will happen. That just feels like a classic sort of Rick Tocchet-esque coach move.
Yeah.
Would be, I want the veteran guy as my number 6. I don't want this young Hronek guy, right? Like, who knows? So,
yeah. Indeed. All right, 10 minutes of questions.
All right. Peter says, if the Canucks are fully healthy, no team's fully healthy, but let's assume, the top players stay in the lineup for the majority of the year. Decent PK and defense. Can they make some noise in the playoffs? They've shown they can score. Demko has shown he can win you games. I don't think you're going to see much noise this year. I don't like the idea of like get in, anything can happen. I think the team needs to get in the playoffs a couple times before you're going to see them get that experience and actually build off of it.
Yeah.
Do they have the pieces to have some potential? Sure. Again, the penalty kill was atrocious last year. Being better would help. Demko does have the ability to steal you games. But most other teams also have goalies that can steal games. Most other teams also have a decent PK. Most other teams are better than the Vancouver Canucks are, right? You look at, are they going to make noise against a Colorado or against an Edmonton? They'll be in pretty tough. So I don't see it. I think this team needs to worry about getting in this year because we can't keep doing this same song and dance.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's a whole PD situation looming too. But I just don't see them yet getting out of the Pacific Division. Sure, they might win their first round matchup, but then you have to win a second round to actually get out of the division. And can they knock off Edmonton and Vegas, for instance, in back-to-back series? Or you're right, if they're a wild card, they could end up getting stuck playing Colorado or Dallas in the first round, depending on how the crossover works. So to put 2 of those series back-to-back, very challenging. But yeah, I remember just when we met, the feeling of the bubble, it's pretty cool. It was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Or did we meet after that? No, it didn't matter.
It was after that.
Right after that. Okay.
It was I started the year after the fun part is when I started.
Yeah. Great job. It's because of you.
Yeah, it's my bad. Will Oliver Ekman-Larsson hit 50 points?
I say no.
I also say no. Although he did get a point or 2 points last night.
What?
In preseason. I think he got a point. Lockwood scored.
What?
It was like all the former Canucks.
Wow.
I'll see if I can I think I have it right here. It's not loading. Okay. So Ekman-Larsson had 3 assists.
What was the score of the game?
Forsling had 2 assists and Lockwood had an assist.
So Canucks outscored the Canucks 6-0 last night from one game. From one game. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Was Lockwood part of? I can't remember which trade Lockwood was part of. No.
He's in Florida.
Who did we get Josh Bloom for? Oh, I'm so confused.
I don't remember.
We had all those. Oh, Bloom came over for Stillman. I remember that. Bloom came over for Stillman.
Lockwood was for Kravtsov.
Oh, that was great.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, then he immediately was a UFA, I guess, and went to Florida, right?
True. And Kravtsov gone to the K, but at least we have his rights.
Right. And he's got 5 points in 5 games.
Who?
Kravtsov.
For what team?
For Chelyabinsk Tractor. It is his best he's ever been on in the KHL.
I used to have a Chelyabinsk tractor when I was on the front. No, that's tough.
Yeah. So he's producing, I guess. So that's great.
Okay, we'll get back to some questions here.
Wolf Girl. I really don't think the defense is as good as it needs to be. I think it's overhyped again. Do you think the D is actually good enough to get out of mediocrity this year? I think the D's better.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as good as it needs to be. I think we're talking about maybe a top 22 NHL defense, maybe top 24. I think Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronek are really doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yes.
For the skill level of that D-core. The reason that we think the D might be good enough to get out of mediocrity is the forwards theoretically should be able to put up some goals, and the 2 goaltenders back there should be able to make some saves. So the defense, hopefully, as if they are, because I think once you get past Hughes and Hronek, there may be like 20 20th, 22nd bottom 4. But those top 2 really bring that up. So maybe they're like the 17th best defense in the NHL.
Sure.
That's good enough if you have the 10th best forward group and the 10th best goaltending tandem.
Right.
And I think that's sort of what the Canucks are hoping for here.
And I understand Wolf Girl's concern. I really do, considering this has been the Achilles heel, along with health. Achilles heel of our
And
team
PK.
has been. Yeah. Okay, so there's a few.
They also have too many heels.
They have more than 2 feet apparently. But I really think Hronek's going to be a wild card in a good way, because we only saw him for 4 games, and let's not read too much into it. But I did notice him when he was in Detroit. The guy's a good player. I think he's going to be a stud. Actually, I think he's going to be much closer to Hughes than he is to the bottom of our lineup. So yeah. I think him alone helps a lot, and then you're basically bringing in Susie and Cole for Shen and I guess Stillman and OEL, basically. Yeah,
And that's an upgrade to me.
Me too.
Not a huge one, but it is a slight upgrade. That Hronek upgrade is the biggest one, though.
Yeah. I like this one. Kind of off topic. You have any words of advice for Karan as he leaves for New York Saturday to Tuesday, watching Bills Dolphins? Sweet. And then the Seahawks Giants on Monday night. Wow.
Have fun.
Yeah.
That would be have a good time. That sounds excellent.
Yeah, that first game especially. Second game's nice because it's Seattle, but the first game looks really, really good. Have fun, buddy. Bring us something back. Yeah.
Yes.
That's our advice.
Edmund says, how confident are you in Casey DeSmith compared to Holtby or Halak? I was pretty confident in both of them. I was wrong about both of them. Casey DeSmith is younger than both of them were at those times, though. Wow. I think that will be helpful.
The Holtby one's interesting. Remember when he came in and we presumed it was to back up Demko, but then didn't he start the first 2 games or something? I remember. We were ready to anoint Demko right after Markstrom left, right after the bubble.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Holtby was bad. He put up an 889 here, and then he went to Dallas the next year and had a 913. And then he didn't play last year. So
Yeah. So I'm confident too. I echo your confidence.
actually, wait, he isn't younger than Holtby was at the time. Holtby's only 34. He's turning 35 this year.
he just looks old because of his beard.
I just feel so. It feels like he's been around forever. Because he broke into the league when he was 20, 21. Yeah. He broke into the league, which I guess helps as a goalie because usually goalies don't until they're like 25.
Sure. Good question from Justin. With all the talk of Pods being a potential bust, his words, not mine, with his underwhelming performance since coming to the league, do you think there's still hope for him, or he's a better fit somewhere else?
So this is his 22-year-old season as a winger.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not too late, but it's getting close. The thing is, there's no reason not to keep him around, really, right? Like, he's an RFA after this year. Like, what's he going to sign for?
Yeah, he's
right?
cheap.
Is he getting a
Right.
raise? He's not getting a raise.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the only throw at him being like going back to Russia, but I don't think he wants to do that. I think you just ride it out. If he doesn't make it this year, you try again next year. But at that point, then you're probably giving him a second chance elsewhere.
Right. You know, I'm not saying that Podkolzin is Tage Thompson. Hear me out. I'm not saying that at all. But it wasn't until Thompson, he had 9 points in 41, 12 and 65. Does this sound familiar? 14 and 38. And then only 2 years ago in his 23-year-old season, he goes 68 and 78. And then last season, crazy, 94 and 78. So hear me out. I'm not saying Podkolzin is Tage Thompson, but I always use Tage Thompson, who I love, as the precautionary tale about not giving up on guys too early.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, do I think he'll be Tage Thompson? Probably not.
No.
But do I think that he'll get better for the next year or two? Probably.
Yeah.
And even if he ends up just being a third line guy, you don't really want to lose him for nothing. So
Right.
keep him around.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
I saw Sportsnet had a thing today, and then Ryan sort of brings it up from the side, saying I think signing Bear makes a lot of sense for the Canucks. And Sportsnet had a thing about like defenseman stocks for the Canucks, and they said Ethan Bear's stock went up after this training camp
By not even being with the team.
He's not even with the team, and he's injured until I think December.
Yeah.
Do you think signing Bear makes sense?
I don't like him as a permanent Hughes partner, but if if he's coming in at 1.5, 1.3 because of injury and even prorated at that, if you're not happy and there's some flexibility there, I don't mind it, but I don't want him for more than 1.5 million.
Yeah, I like Ethan Bear. Genuinely, I do. I think he'd make a good number 6, honestly. And yeah, that wouldn't really have any cap impact because you'd be sending a guy down to sign him. So long as, it is under about 1.5, it would be sort of where that cutoff is.
Sure.
I like Ethan Bear. I would be totally okay with having him back.
2 questions about Hronek. Well, Wolfgirl saying excited, and then Ryan says, what's your guess for how much he'll make his next deal? So he's coming off a 3-year, 4.4. Is the number starting with a 6? I guess it depends on how well he does, but I could see him getting.
So he's
6.
an RFA for 1 more year, basically.
Right.
So his contract expired this year. So they have 1 RFA year and then any years. So they sign him for a 6-year deal. They have to buy 5 UFA years. Could that number start with a 6? Absolutely, it could. It could start with a 7 or an 8.
Wow.
If he's good, right? If he's quite good, I could see. But yeah, I think if he puts up, like 35 points this year, maybe 40 points like the last 2 years, maybe it's a 6.5. And if he's excellent and he performs even better, then that number definitely can go up.
Mm-hmm. Are you as high on him as I am?
Not yet.
Okay.
I haven't seen him play. I mean, I've seen highlights, and he played 4 games last year, but he was still kind of injured.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him play, so
Okay.
I'm not sold yet.
I'll ask you about him next Monday after he's played at least 1 game, hopefully.
What else is there? We are at about time, but there's a lot of questions that came in.
Well, a lot of them are about Taylor Swift, though. So
okay, well, we can skip those ones. Kai says, do you think the Canucks will try to snag a D-man off waivers before opening night? It's going to be tough with the cap. You can try to sneak good players. You can find upgrades for Irwin or for Juleson. I think it'll be tough.
I don't see it happening.
I don't see that happening either.
Yeah, it's a good thought, though, because you're right. As everyone tries to get guys down to start the season or to get cap compliant or whatever to do their roster maneuvering, there's always some fines there, but isn't that what a Wolanin is kind of already? So I don't know. Mm-hmm. Not sure.
Yeah, I think the Canucks already have so many defense around that level.
Yeah,
I don't think there's going to be any gems on the waiver wire, so to speak.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And as we wrap up, Spartan asks, is Sportsnet now worth it this year? If it's your only way to watch the games, I guess so. But man, it is useless. So enjoy dealing with that all year if you have to.
What is he talking about? Like, just Sportsnet the channel?
Sportsnet now is like the online one where if you don't have cable, you can watch the games, and it sucks. It breaks all the time. Their video player's bad.
Yeah.
The app isn't great.
Although I think I watched Canada-US FIBA bronze medal game from Kelowna when I was speaking on Sportsnet now at like 3 a.m, and it worked.
Oh, so when no one else was using it, it worked.
That's a good point.
3 a.m. That's prime time.
Don't give away my
Sportsnet
secret.
Now
I don't want anyone
servers.
else. Yeah, I don't want anyone else watching with me.
So that's your key is to actually go to bed when the Canucks game starts and then watch the VOD at 3 a.m.
That was good.
When no one else uses the service. All right. And with that, we can probably wrap up. Folks, thank you very much for watching. This is our last show of September. Next week, it is October. We'll have 3 more preseason games to talk about. We'll have actually like the main lineup playing, hopefully 1 or 2 of those. And we will be just a week away from our season preview, essentially our predictions show. For next week, I'm going to try to have the predictions up and ready so you can actually plug in your predictions before we do. The 9th will be our prediction show. Make sure you're subscribed for that. I just want to make sure, hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, we're 3 away from 1,500, so you might as well and try to be that number.
There's got to be 3 in here that haven't subscribed yet.
I know there is. It's probably about 30.
20.
So, you might think you're subscribed and you might not be. That happens all the time. I watch channels all the time. They're always recommended. I'm not subscribed to them. It doesn't really mean anything. Hit the button anyways because the bigger number makes us feel better. Yeah. Clay, any parting words this Monday evening?
Well, I'm giggling because through May, June, July, August, September, there's some shows where we were hurting. We were really hurting. We canceled basically 4 in a row.
Yep.
But it's nice to feel like we are back into hockey season for sure. And looking forward to covering it all with you. And if you're not sick of hockey talk, I'm back to my nightly stuff, my late night crazy time. So anyone who still wants to chat for half an hour more for whatever reason, if you're not exhausted, you can join me in about 15 minutes on my channel if you want. 10 minutes. Yeah.
Excellent, folks. Make sure you do that. You can find Clay at Canuck Clay on YouTube and Twitter. You can find me, Parker's Pucks, on YouTube and Twitter, or X as it's now called.
Yeah.
Hit the like button, do all that good stuff. Make sure you're subscribed because it's hockey season. We'll be here every Monday, all season long. And we hope to have you here as well. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.